Hi again, everybody. This is the second edition of Macera Monday, and I'm bringing to you some valuable information about how to grow your market share in the COVID economy. So last week I brought to you a couple of main points: buying a competitor, collaborating with a competitor, marketing, keeping up your customer service by answering the phone, checking your social, and thinking about your strategy. So this week I want to dial in on one of those topics. Specifically, I want to dial in on collaboration. Most people have a really hard time thinking about how to collaborate. But first, let me tell you a couple of things. First of all, next week, we will be coming to you with all sorts of information about how to prepare your business in terms of buying or selling. So we will have a business broker and expert, a friend of mine, on the video, and you will learn a ton. Second, I read an article this week that basically said businesses with 10 or fewer employees are in immediate danger in this economy. Part of the reason for that is businesses with 10 or fewer employees tend to have the least amount of liquid asset or liquid cash available, meaning they don't have a lot of cash on hand. So when you are challenged as one of those business owners with an economic slowdown, it's really do or die. And businesses with 10 or fewer employees are really part of my heart. They're the people that I want to help the very most. So this is for you today. Now, businesses of any sort can do these things. They can collaborate together. But businesses that are, well, these are called micro businesses, and I don't like to call them micro business because it's your life and it doesn't feel like micro anything. It feels like everything is riding on this, and for you, it is. I am one of those people as well. We have 10 people here in the office, so we're right on the cusp, but we're in the same boat. So check out these tips on collaboration. First of all, how in the world do you collaborate with a competitor? Let's take this one head on. My guess is if you're a tradesman, if you go to any industry shows, you've met some people that you like, even though they might be a competitor in the local market. And maybe you've had a beer with them, maybe you pal around with them a little bit, or maybe you just know them by name. First of all, in this economy, in any economy, it pays to be friends with those people. So how to collaborate with a competitor? Many of you have likely had to let somebody go from your business. Now that might have been a receptionist, a bookkeeper, some sort of administrative staff, who knows. But call up your competitor and see if you can share that person. Maybe they've not let them go. Could you share a receptionist? Could you share a bookkeeper? Split the cost and just make that something that you're still getting that service in your business so that you can do what you need to do, but still get all of these other tasks taken care of. So that's number one way to collaborate with a competitor. You could also have a little mastermind. Now that could be formal or informal. Different people do it maybe around the boardroom table here, or maybe you do it around the bar. Either of those is great. But basically the idea is just getting together with the intention of sharing ideas. What are you doing? What's working? What's not working? What do you think is coming next? Just share information with that trusted person, and maybe you can go out and conquer the market in that way. You could sub out your work. That's not necessarily a competitor thing. It could be somebody else that you're subbing out to, but if you've got a lot of work and have a competitor that, could support you, you could sub your work out to that person. Or especially if that person has a specific specialty in an area that you don't specialize in, you can provide your customer better service by subbing the work that applies specifically to them. And in that way, you could exchange, they could sub work back out to you if you have a specific specialty as well. Last but not least, you could make some sort of agreement to take different kinds of work or take every other client that you're marketing together with. So if you're going to do something like that, something that's a more formal agreement, let me just tell you from more than 10 years of experience, make sure you talk out all the details and write them down and sign them. This is not to scare you, but this is where things can go bad. If they're going to go bad, you think you said this, the other person thinks you said that, and therein you have a conflict right from the very beginning. So talk out all those details in your collaboration and make sure you have a clear understanding of what's expected of each party. Now, if you think I'm completely crazy trying to collaborate with a competitor, I understand that. But we do this in the consulting industry. We collaborate with people who have a specialty in certain fields, an HR specialty, a technology specialty, and so we bring those people into our jobs and thereby collaborate and give our customers the best service. So that's an example of how you could collaborate in that sense. It's also an example of my next point, which is collaborating with a complementary business. So within your industry, there are likely to be complementary businesses, and I'll give you an example. In the real estate industry, if you have a real estate brokerage, a complementary business would be a title company. So very obviously, if you're doing real estate, you're hoping to have some closings, and a title company or a real estate attorney is going to most likely be doing those closings. So how could you collaborate together with a person in the chain of the deal there to survive the COVID economy? Well, you could market together, or you could generate clients up and down the chain together. So you might be getting leads that you could share. So just a tip that might come to you. You probably thought of that already, and you probably have friends you're doing that with now. However, this would be a great time to do that even more intentionally. Next, collaborate with a business with a similar target market. Now, this requires one thing of you, that you know very specifically who your target market is. Now, be very, very specific when you are defining your target market, and you might have a primary target market as well as several other target markets. We have many levels of clients that we are looking for, but when you are specific, then you can find a company or a set of companies that has a very similar target market. Some examples: a cleaning company and a daycare. Now, the cleaning company is probably going to be looking for families with kids. Very clearly, the daycare is also going to be looking for a family with kids. So in that way, they might be able to market together or give each other referrals or support each other. A couple of other examples: a school and a children's clothing store, or a speech and language therapist. I've seen these kinds of collaborations taking place anyway. For the younger people, or not necessarily the younger people, but anybody who's hip. Maybe a club, like a nightclub, bands, and tech stores, like an iPhone Fix-It store. You could market together because you may very likely have a similar target market, even though your businesses are very different. So check that out, see what you can do. Next week, you'll see my example of collaborating with a business broker. Again, we have very similar target markets. We're not, in any way taken away from each other in working together. In fact, we are building business and building relationships, which will carry us both into the future. So I want to encourage you in that way. A couple of other important collaborations you may not have thought about. Your city, state, local, whatever government entities that you have that regulate your business. Communicating with them right now is going to be very, very important, because they are going to be making policy changes, such as opening or closing your businesses, opening and closing roads, beaches, different regulations, wearing masks, not wearing masks, any number of things that will certainly affect your business. So if you can communicate with government officials, they have many avenues by which they say they accept your communications, but the more that you can communicate and truly build a dialogue, the better off you will be. And last but not least, you have undoubtedly a variety of local resource centers, and by that I mean places where people and information are gathered. And an excellent example of that is your local Chamber of Commerce. So interacting, maybe you've been a member, maybe you haven't, but log on to their, make sure you're getting their newsletters, log on to their social, because you will find a lot of resources at a chamber or a SCORE or a business like mine, where they're really trying to produce information that will help you. And just start taking some of that in so that you have the information you need to think strategically about how to grow your market share in the COVID economy. So here's to collaboration. Have a great week.